we go to Stephen Moore, who is at Wall Street Journal, founder of Club for Growth, Trumponomics author, and of course he's an advisor to the president and has been helping guide this economic comeback. Stephen, always such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Dana. Great to see you.
Good to see you as well. This impasse, who's going to win this? I would hope that reason can prevail here and people see that we really need to get something done, but at the same time, including some of these, some of the demands that are coming from Democrats. I know one of the things that's been, and I think you and I've discussed this before, trying to pin it on taxpayers to bail out some of these other cities and states that have been so poorly run for generations and act as though that's a result of the pandemic. Well, that's not financially feasible, nor is it the responsibility of all the taxpayers to handle this. Give us the latest on where these discussions are, and honestly, who's going to win this? I hope it's the president, but who's going to come out on top here?
By the way, Dana, I'm in one of those bankrupt blue states that you're talking about. Oof. I'm in outside the Chicago area right now, and Illinois is a financial disaster.
Yes.
Thanks to liberal policies. When I grew up here 30 years ago, it was not like this, but you've had, 2 decades now of far left liberal leadership that has destroyed the state. And what's happening in Chicago is one of the great disgraces. Chicago is one of the greatest cities. And I'm a little biased. I grew up there.
It's a beautiful city.
Chicago is one of the great cities in the world, and is being destroyed by criminals, by arsonists, by hoodlums, by a mob. And nobody in this city is doing anything about it. It's a real disgrace.
It is.
Now, don't you agree with that, by the way?
I do. I grew up in St. Louis. So I was on the other side of the river, and I have family in Illinois, and I always loved going to Chicago. Gorgeous city, and I loved the city of Chicago. And it still has a special place in my heart. I'm not a fan of your Cubs. I'm not even going to pretend that. But it's in spite of the Cubs, it's a gorgeous city, and it's heartbreaking to see what's.
Have you seen what they've done? Have you seen what they've done to the Miracle Mile, Michigan Avenue?
Yeah. And I saw what they also did to the Ronald McDonald Children's House, where terrified sick kids were inside as a riot was destroying the building on the outside. This is insane. This isn't I keep saying this isn't a protest, it's a revolution. And to expect people to be on the hook for all of this, while all of this is going down, I don't think it's working for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, because I really do believe that voters see this as just petty political posturing on their part, because they're suffering. I mean, their cities are suffering. They can't work. Talk to me a little bit about this, because I love what's been proposed so far, particularly with the payroll tax.
Okay. So that's a good point. And I'll just make one more point about the riots, which is that not one single Democrat leader, not one single liberal voice has spoken out and condemned this criminal activity that, by the way, is destroying the lives and livelihoods of immigrants, of minority communities. They're the ones who are suffering, but none of them dare stand up for peace and for justice. Okay, so I had to get that off my, because it's just I'm heartbroken to see what's happened to my city. I just can't believe it's going to take 10 years to rebuild the city because of these left-wing crazies. Now, Donald Trump is up against some of those left-wing crazies in Washington right now. You're right, Dana. And he did something quite courageous. And I thought, this guy has a spine of steel. So, Pelosi had him in a behind the 8 ball on these negotiations. She said, she's basically said, Dana, this isn't a negotiation. This is General Lee at Appomattox. You're surrendering to me. And Trump said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to surrender to all your demands, including a $1 trillion bailout for blue states that are, as you said, have been mismanaged for 20 years. So Trump did something I thought which was really skillful and tactical, which is he basically said, okay, I'm going to go around you. I'm going to do an executive order, which I have the authority, legal and constitutional authority to do, which is to suspend the payroll tax payments of workers for the rest of the year. That would give every worker about a 6 to 6.5% pay raise immediately, starting in their next paychecks. Now, here's how I know, Dana, that he did the right thing. Did you see Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer 1 hour after he made that announcement? They looked like their heads were going to explode. I mean, they were so angry. And they just don't know how to deal with it. They're now suing Trump for some of his executive orders on unemployment insurance, on a moratorium on evictions, and some student loan forgiveness. And I'm not necessarily even in favor of those. But, Dana, those are proposals that they advocate Now Trump is doing it, and Nancy Pelosi is suing Trump not to do the things that she wants done. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I hope that everyone sees the posturing here and realizes they're being used as pawns, because to now get upset over the president on this. And I have to say, when you bring up that the payroll tax, and when you're talking about workers earning more and the use of the executive order, I was very amused to see certain Republicans try to say that somehow this was an excessive use of the president's authority. And I never thought I would see the day, talking with Stephen Moore, where anyone that identified as being for limited government would complain about being forced to not pay more tax.
Good point. Really good point. And by the way, there is absolutely the liberals have had at least 10 of their best constitutional scholars trying to find some way that this is not constitutional. But the language of the law, which was passed by Congress, is very clear. And I'll tell you what it says, Dana, and I think any thinking person can figure out what this means. In a time of economic emergency, which we are in right now, the president can declare an economic emergency, and he has the authority as president not to cancel taxes, but to postpone their payment. That's what Trump is doing. I laid this out in the Wall Street Journal about a week and a half ago, and Trump embraced the idea. And the idea here is, let's get this going, and then, Nancy Pelosi, let's pass a bill that actually codifies this in the law, so everyone gets a payroll tax cut. 140 million workers, even minimum wage workers. How is Nancy Pelosi against a 6% pay raise for minimum wage workers?
Yeah, exactly. That's the $1 million question, and there's no way that she can't spin her way out of that. Although the one argument that I've seen them try to say is Trump is stealing everyone's Social Security money, which I thought had already been stolen out of Al Gore's lockbox, but I may be mistaken.
They've only been stealing money from that account for 30 years. It's a little hard argument for Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to make, because when Barack Obama did a brief payroll tax cut back in 2010, they said this is the best thing that ever happened for the middle class, and what a hero Barack Obama is to cut the payroll tax. And they said this is not going to have any negative impact on the payroll tax, on the Social Security fund. And now, Dana, now that Trump is doing this, they're saying exactly the opposite. And the problem is, Dana, we have them on tape. We have them on tape.
The internet is amazing. Yes.
So they're having a hard problem saying it's good when Obama does it, but it's bad when Trump does it. But that's liberalism for you.
Exactly. And we've been seeing already gains just so far with what's been done with the economy reopening and the economic decisions that have been made thus far. And by the way, I loved your Wall Street Journal piece, if folks haven't read it, how Trump can deliver tax relief without Congress, which is a great piece that I think explains it very succinctly for people who might have a lot of questions about this, because we've seen the jobless claims now fall. Again, now we're at under 1 million for the first time, I think, since March. These are all good signs indicating that every step that we have taken thus far, in spite of all of the Democrat fear-mongering, is really, it's bringing us back up as quickly, I think, even to a good, healthy economic standpoint. And maybe at some point we'll get back to where we were before all of this started.
So this is a big central difference between liberals and conservatives. So we believe that when you tax something, you get less of it, and when you subsidize something, you get more of it.
Right.
So we want lower taxes so that people will work more and invest more and work harder and start businesses. Taxes are penalties. So that's one of the reasons we want the payroll tax cut, because not only will it put money in people's pockets, but it's going to incentivize people to work more and employers to hire more people. Now, the left does not want that payroll tax. What they do want is the $600 a week unemployment benefits, which, according to the Congressional Budget Office, is paying 80% of unemployed workers are now, thanks to Nancy Pelosi, getting paid more money not to work than to work. Now, I think most people, look, we all want a safety net for when people lose their jobs, right, Dana? Right. Everyone wants to make sure people don't go hungry or lose their homes.
Especially when it's eminent domain, economic eminent domain, basically. Especially then.
Yeah, well put. So, but no thinking person thinks it's economically smart or actually fair that people who are not working are making more money than people who are working. Look, let's face it, the people are the heroes of our economy. Are the nurses and the first responders and the police and the sanitation workers and the people who are in the nursing homes taking care of people. we want to give those people a raise.
Yeah.
We say, well done. They want to pay people who don't want to work. It's a central difference. They care more about giving unemployed people money than the people who are working and keeping our economy functioning. And so the reason I say that is the unemployment numbers went down significantly, you're right, in those numbers that were released yesterday. And it's no coincidence that happened when the $600 a week unemployment benefits stopped. As soon as you stop paying people to stay unemployed, guess what? They go out and get a job. And that's what happened last week.
Exactly, which is great news. Last question for you. We're talking with Stephen Moore with the Wall Street Journal, Trumponomics author. Also with the good numbers with the jobless claims, there were some bad numbers about small business. Small business because of the lockdown. Small business, which drives the American economy. I think something to the extent of about 40% of the small businesses are closed permanently. And if I find it interesting that for those in the Democrat Party that continually say that all of this is having a disproportionate effect on minority communities, yet they're the ones who advocated for this. According to the numbers, it's minority-owned businesses that are actually suffering the most under this. How can this be remedied? And how can we maybe incentivize, or what else can we do to help spur the creation or government get out of the way so small businesses can have that motivation to create, fill the need? How do we address this?
So, you're so right about the hypocrisy of the left. So they were the ones who insisted we lock down the economy. Where were the lockdowns most severe? New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. What do all those states have in common? They have Democratic governors, and they have very liberal, they're anti-Trump states. Yeah. They're Democratic-run states. They locked down their economy. They have the highest unemployment rates. Now, by the way, they didn't save a single life by doing that. Those states that had the strictest lockdowns also have the highest death rates. Did you know that?
Yes.
I mean, New York's death rate, it's amazing. The left is running around saying that Andrew Cuomo was some kind of hero. The death rate in New York wasn't like 20 or 30 or 50% higher than the rest of the country. It was 500% higher.
With
they talk about Texas,
of it being
Florida,
because of his nursing home edict.
Exactly. Yeah, they killed people in nursing homes. My point is this: how do we help those small businesses? It's obvious, and there's only one thing we can do to help small businesses: get the damn economy open up. Let businesses get their feet back on the ground. You've got liberal commentators out there saying we should lock down the economy again. These people are nuts. Did you see the story by the CDC that 1 out of 4 kids between the age of 15 and 24 have contemplated suicide because people are depressed, they are lonely, they don't have anything to do. We have got to get this economy up and running. We've got to get our schools open. And the liberals are preventing that from happening. And then they're saying, gee, Donald Trump caused all these businesses to fail. What did they think was going to happen when they shut down the damn economy?
Exactly. Hey, that's the $1 million question. Stephen Moore, we are so grateful for your brain and your voice. we appreciate you. Author of Trumponomics. Go read his editorials latest too at Wall Street Journal. Stephen, have a wonderful weekend. Always so good to see you. Thank you for your time.